The much talked about Apple iPhone 4 is finally here. It's a bit more robust than previous models, a bit heavier, feels a bit like a Canon Ixus camera if you've got one of those, or a smaller HD2. It is slightly smaller than 3G and 3GS in all dimensions, and it has this black glass kind of effect on the back. That's supposed to increase the signal strength. It's also supposed to be quite scratch resistant, although early blogs kind of differ on opinion as far as that's concerned. The screen itself is the same size, 3.5 inches as previous models, but it has 4 times the definition on it, and the colour and resolution are just something quite special, although it's not OLED, which a lot of new smartphones have moved to. The buttons are all in the same place, you'd be pleased to know, so they've split up the volume buttons, but here is the silencer button, and that's a little bit more robust than it has been before. It's been a bit of an Achilles heel on previous models. They've introduced a microphone by the headphone socket. That's a noise cancelling microphone to improve the quality of the call. The power button stays where it is, and here's the SIM card slot. It's micro SIM, not standard size SIM, so you'll need to get a special SIM card from your operator if you bought a pay-as-you-go or just a phone on its own without a contract. Now the phone has a metal strip that runs all the way around the outside, which is used as the phone's antenna to get a reception. Problem is, well, there's been a few problems, and it all revolves around covering this black strip here. There's the black strip that you don't want to cover. With my sweaty palm, if I happen to be a left-hander, look what happens to my 5 bars of signal. We've sped this up 2 times in order to show you how easy it is to lose the signal. And that is pretty embarrassing for a 500 or 600 pound bit of kit. Solutions have varied online, from putting a bit of nail varnish over that bit of the device or putting a bit of sticky tape over it, or you can buy a cover. See what works for you. The iPhone 4 sports Apple's new iOS 4. That's the operating system, which gives us multitasking for the first time. So we can have whatever our applications we've been using open down here, they stay open, so we can immediately go back into them without having to boot up from the start. That's really useful if you want to play music in the background, or you might want to load a web page, and while it's loading, nip off and do something else. A swipe to the left gives you your iPod controls, which used to be there when you click twice on the home button, and also a lock here, so we can lock the orientation so the phone doesn't go to landscape when we turn it sideways, or to portrait. It's just all locked off. Apple's user interface has been lauded as beautiful and simple to use, but it is sprawling. As anyone who has downloaded lots of apps will tell you, these pages just go on and on forever. Now though, we have folders, and here's one that I made earlier. It's called Travel. I just tap the icon and all my travel apps are inside there. It keeps the desktop, so to speak, the home screens nice and clean. Now, there's something new on the front of this phone that we haven't seen on previous iPhones, and it's right up here at the top. Whilst Apple have upgraded the camera on the back to 5 megapixels, they put a camera on the front, a VGA camera, which has a very special application. We've come down to the Click office for this next application because it only works over Wi-Fi. We don't have that in the studio upstairs. It also only works between iPhone 4 and iPhone 4. It's called FaceTime, and it's essentially video calling. We've been doing it for the last 5 or 6 years. Apple have just caught on. They say they're going to make it popular because it's easy. They also say it's going to be open source, so anyone can jump on board. We might expect other phone manufacturers to offer the same service in the future. But for now, it's just with Apple, and the call comes in, and when it does, if I'm on Wi-Fi, and if the caller's on Wi-Fi, I get the option of FaceTime. And I push accept, and then as soon as I do so, the call connects, and I can see Mehrdad. Hello, Mehrdad. And my ugly mug is right in the top corner here. I can move that around depending on where I fancy like putting it. The camera on the back also shoots HD video. That's 720p. And the videos that I've shot on this are pretty much some of the best I've seen on a mobile phone. With all this new stuff going on, you might think the battery would suffer. It doesn't. In fact, in my experience, it's lasting about twice as long as previous iPhones. Now, is it worth getting? Well, interestingly, 3 out of 4 people who buy this phone will be upgrading from previous iPhones. And if you have the last one, the 3GS, with iOS 4, the new operating system that Apple has released, and you're happy with it, then I would say maybe it's not so much worth upgrading. If you've got a 3G or something older, then it's certainly worth considering, especially if you're right-handed.